It's Mark here. I've turned the corner a little bit. My voice doesn't sound all nasally today. I was talking to y'all with just through fevers and extremely sore throat, body aches. I was just coming on here because the algorithm is a real thing. If I was just like, I'm going to take my time off until I feel better, all of a sudden when I put up my lives, nobody's going to get notified. So I was like, let me just grin and bear it as much as I can. I am not 100% now, but I would say that I'm around 70%. So, knock on wood, I would say that I'm turning a corner in terms of my physical wellness. But I'm not 100% yet. There's still a little bit of time. I haven't worked out, exercised in more than 2 weeks. That's a huge deal for me, and that's just because I'm trying to rest as much as possible. I'm trying to heal as much as possible and get better as soon as possible. And there's been previous times in my life where I was like, let me just keep going full speed and I'll get better eventually. It's not like that anymore because number one, I don't get better as fast. As you get older, it takes longer when these illnesses happen. But yeah, it's for the greater goal and the greater good. How's it going, Ma? So, I forgot what I titled this already, but it was something to the effect of not everybody that doesn't see your path. I think I wanted to put not everybody that doesn't see your path to success is a hater. And that was something that I've already come to that realization, but I heard a speech on Saturday that kind of confirmed this notion for me. So, in this speech, this person said, you always have the tendency to define what you consider support should be from friends and family. Like, if I open up a mom and pop store, if I open up a store, it doesn't matter what the store is. If I open up a convenience store, support is my friends and family going into the store and shopping in the store, buying stuff from me in the store. Or somebody might say, support is when I have my grand opening, they share it all over their social media and they tell people, hey, my friend has this store opening such and such day. And we feel like if anything other than that takes place, then the person is a hater. They're not doing that because they don't want to see me succeed. Now, there are some cases where the person is literally a hater. They don't want you to succeed. They're not going to support your business. They're not going to tell anybody about your business, and they are going to sit there and hope that it fails. There's another group of people. I can give an example. I'm not going to say who, but I can give the example of family members who I know would never root against my success intentionally, who have never watched my YouTube page, who have never been to any event that I've had, never been to any mental health speech that I've had, and I've told them, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm trying to do, this is something that I'm hosting, and they don't show up. And I used to say to myself, that person are people to succeed. So something that this was, a lot of people only know a success that they have experienced themselves. That's one thing. They only know a success that they've experienced themselves. So if you're trying to do something that particular person has never done before, or maybe even they've tried to do the same thing as you, or something similar to you and failed at it, they don't have that scope to be able to see the success of what you're trying to do. So they might tell you, you know what, this is really hard. Only so few people actually succeed in this. And they're not saying this because they don't want you to succeed. It's because they've never succeeded, so they don't know what the success looks like, feels like, tastes like, smells like. So they're just telling you things from their perspective. I had my interview that I did on my other channel, Music and Mental Health, with my life coach Shar, and she said something similar to that. People always speak from their level of perspective. There's another thing. A lot of us will wonder why, and I'm guilty of this one. How come if I say something really smart and insightful, I make it into a nice video, I have my captions and everything, it's really smart and good advice. I post it up, of maybe 5 people, 10 people will be in my inbox. That's really wise, Mark. That's really great. I like what you said there. But it stays at really those 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, maybe, if it's really good. Or if I get lucky and one of these blue check people that are always in my inbox, because trust me, I'm not one of those people that needs the validation of letting everyone know that people with blue checks speak to me in my inbox, but there's plenty of them. And sometimes, occasionally, they'll give me a share, and then all of a sudden, this same thing that only had 30 views will suddenly have 3,000 views, 5,000 views. But it's a one-time deal. It's not because they care what I had to say specifically. It's just because, oh, such and such shared this in their story, so now it's important. Now it's meaningful. I said all of that to say, you'll look at something and then Oprah will say the same thing as you, or The Rock will say the same thing as you, or Kevin Hart will say the same thing that you said. And your friends or family will share that with you all day. But when it's your stuff, they don't do the same. And it's not because the words that those people are saying are any better. It's an effect of Oprah's a billionaire. Um, Kevin Hart's net worth is, I don't know what it is, half a billion or something. The Rock's network, I don't know, net worth. I don't know why I said network. Net worth, like their net worth determines the value of their advice. Even on this page, I remember when I first got monetized on this specific page, and that was when YouTube lowered their requirements a little bit. And I think that they used to require 1,000 subscribers and I want to say 4,000 watch hours within a certain number of days, and then they lowered that to like 500 subscribers and something else. And then I added back memberships and members only videos and things like that. And I remember I announced that on my YouTube. I announced that on my community page. I was like, hey y'all, I'm gonna start doing members only video, members only Q&A. And some people, not obviously not people that are relevant to me, but trolls in the comments that were telling me, hey, don't you think that you, no offense, but why am I gonna pay to hear things from you, because who are you? And I'm like, okay, you have a right to your opinion and you're entitled to say that. However, what difference does it make if I'm interesting, if I am informative, if I'm bringing something that people enjoy listening to, that they value? What difference does it make whether I have 100 people, 500 people, or 10,000 people? Because imagine if I sat down when I had 20 subscribers, 40 subscribers, 50 subscribers, and listened to the people who were telling me that. I would have probably stopped whatever I was doing with this before I even had a chance to build those people up. It requires a level of believing in yourself. And, back onto the topic. Hi, Colleen. Good morning. Back onto the topic. Another point that I don't want to get off here without saying, you can have different people in your life for different things. Some people make it, some people who talk about success all the time, those success pages, I remember reading something years ago that I've seen many different versions of. You are the average of your five closest friends or your five closest people to you. It could be family, it could be your relationship, it could be anything, anybody. But the people that have the most access to you, that are around you the most. And it's basically like up the people around you in order to get the things that you are trying to get out of life, right? But everything is not quite as simple and cut and dry as that, because you're not only going to be around those five people for your whole life. You know, honestly, if you work and you work a full-time job 40 hours a week, not many people think about this, but I think about it. Are you around your coworkers more, or are you around your family more? Sure, you could call your family, you could text them all day, but truthfully, especially if you work in an in-person setting, or even if you don't, you are in constant communication with your work colleagues. And you might get lucky and have one or two of them that you really connect with, that add value to your life, that you can end up becoming friends with, talk about business and positivity, wellness, and things that are important for self-development and things like that. You might get lucky with that, but most of us have a bunch of people around us that don't add those things to our lives, and that's okay. If they're toxic, if they're negative, and they are getting in the way, standing in the way of the things that you want, yes, it's important for you to just remove that person from your life if you can. If it's not somebody that you have to be around for a certain amount of time, like work. But you can have different people around for different things. You can have this person who you know you are going to be able to talk about your finances. You know you're going to be able to talk about your relationships. You know you're going to be able to talk about your wellness practices. You know that you're going to be able to talk about investments, like things that are really important and are boosting you up in life. You know you have a person like that. You also need that person who you're going to catch up with on the weather. Hey, how's the weather going? And this person's going to tell you. The weather forecast for the week today is 47 degrees and a 20% chance of rain. You need that other person who's going to give you the entertainment. Hey, did you see the episode of Big Brother last night? It was crazy. Such and such and so got in some fight, with this and this person. You don't just have to have those really tight, serious ones that are only focused on business goals. You just have to know which category each person is in. Like, oh, when I need emotional support, I am not going to call the weather guy. When I need business advice, I'm not going to talk to the auto mechanic. When I need help with, when I need help with my car, I am not going to call the nurse that I talk to for medical advice. It's just, number one, knowing who is there for what. And that's number one. I forget how somebody phrased this to me one time, but I think it was something like shaking the apple tree and expecting oranges to fall out. I think that was one of my favorite phrases. Actually, one of my coworkers told me that phrase, one of my old coworkers, when I was having problems with this manager of mine. And I'm like, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? This gets me angry and that gets me angry. And then this coworker was like, Mark, you've been here long enough to know who this person is and what they provide. So I think it's time for you to stop shaking the apple tree and expecting oranges to fall out. And everyone knows I love phrases, especially when they're applicable to things that are going on in my life. And that was one of the most relevant, and I still do that to this day. Recognize that this is the apple tree and go to the apple tree when you want to eat an apple. When you are not feeling like an apple or you don't need an apple, go to the pear tree. You can have different trees that you go to for different things, different fruits. My weather person just texted me. Yeah, and I have people too who are the hey, good morning, how are you people who we don't really get in depth of anything. And I have the people who, when I reach out to them, we're going to have an hour and a half conversation every time we talk, because that's just the way we connect, and but the whole cut off the people that don't provide the exact thing that you want at all times. I don't believe in that. There are cases where people need to get cut off, but you need a variety. You need people for different things. Like sometimes, for example, when my dad passed, there was people who, when I would speak to them, they're like, oh, Mark, I have to talk to you about the seriousness of life. This happened when my parent passed away. Da 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 da. Life gets hard, and it's difficult to deal with, and this is gonna happen with friends and family. Blah blah blah. You have to worry about this and this, money, this and that and that. And it was support. It was important things that they were talking to me about. But at that particular point in time, the type of support that I needed was, how are you feeling? Can I assist you with something? Can I give you some emotional support for the difficulty that you're facing, with not having your dad around, and what comes with that? That's the type of support I needed at that time. So that person, while they were useful at a later time, when I was more in a position to reflect on other things, when I'm not as much in my feelings, they were not useful for me at that particular point in time. So I had to just limit my interaction. That's the other thing. When we're at work, it's easy because it's like you're at work for whatever hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours. You have things to get done, right? So you know how to prioritize things, because there's the risk of not getting things done and being in trouble. So if I have 8 hours in my day and the weather person comes to talk to me and says to me, Mark, let's talk about the forecast for the next month. Isn't global warming really something? It's because of all the pollution and the buildings, blah, blah, blah. Now, if my work is already done, I can talk to that person I can spare half an hour to talk about that thing that's not doing anything for my life, and is just, I can't think of the phrase I'm trying to think of right now, but just, useless conversation that doesn't really mean anything. But if I have some kind of deadline that I need to complete, and the person is talking to me about the weather, how the stars align, or whatever, I might have to be like, yeah, isn't that something? All right, I'll talk to you later. You have to learn how to ration your time. You have to learn who gets what amount of time. That's also a lesson I learned in college, when I first was in a college that I was not with my parents. And that gave me the freedom to organize my schedule in any way I want. Although I was alone at 13, so it wasn't the first time. But when I went to college, I had more freedom than I had ever had before. And I was with these friends. My closest friends at that time were people that did not really... They were more happy to be on their own and do what they want than they were to be in college and think about the importance of studying, getting their degree, so on and so forth. And I was hanging out with them excessively, and my grades were taking a hit for that. And at first, I had this kind of cold cutoff thing when I heard that saying, you're the average of your 5 closest friends. I was like, shoot, these 5 friends are not doing me any good. So I need to cut them out. And I did that at first. And then I got new friends that were helping me. We studied together, we did group projects together. My grades were definitely improved, but in between time, I needed the social aspect. I needed those friends that I could have fun with. And I didn't have that. And then I realized all the way from back then, I could reach out to my fun friends that didn't care about school, but just we're not going to be spending all of my after hours together. So it would look more like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm really locked in on all my work. Friday, um, I can kind of relax a little bit. Hey, I have 3 hours to spare, 4 hours. I could hang out in their room. We could go out somewhere, but I budgeted my time in such a way that I got the things I needed to get done first, and then I had the time to spend with these friends that were not contributing in that area. It doesn't mean that they weren't useful friends. It just means that if I spend all my time sitting in the areas that we're sitting in and not moving and not doing anything, playing video games and just hanging out and hanging around, you reach out to me in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, hi Prince, I don't see the message, but hi Prince. We're all going to be sitting in the same place together. So it's a juggling act. It's a matter of balance. But the whole point of the message, to wrap it up, you don't have to cut off all the people that are not going in the direction of what success means to you, because even a successful person needs a variety of people around them. Yes, they need the people that are going to help with their success, with their business, with their finance, with the blueprint. They need people who are focused, dedicated. They need people like that. And that could be friends, or it could be just people who they work with specifically just for business purposes only. It could be either one, but they need those people in order to press forward. But there are some times when they do probably like having that phone call that has nothing to do with their business. Someone calls them up and they're like, did you see the basketball game last night? Or did you watch the Grammys or the Oscars? Or did you see such and such? Or they're just talking to you about whatever. Somebody in your family that's talking to you about auntie so-and-so and who they brought to Thanksgiving dinner. And everybody needs some kind of a balance. So don't think that you have to cut everybody off. And one other thing, if you get to a point where you elevate in your life, which that happened to me at one time, where I was at a very low point. I met a bunch of people who were also at their lowest point when they met me, and we bonded together. I'm not really killing it with the fit. This is just my work stuff. But thank you anyways for thinking so. This is actually just my work jacket, which basically doubles as my fit because I don't take off the jacket when I meet with my clients. But anyways, when you grow, you don't have to say you and you are not where I am, so I'm cutting you off. What really ends up happening is that I believe in giving people the chance to grow with you and change with you. I always want people to grow and change with me, ideally. But normally when you go through periods of large growth where you were a certain way for a long time and the people around you were also that same way that you were, a lot of times they're not going to grow with you. But the point of me saying that is just talk to them about it. this is what I was on before, but this is what I'm on now. I used to do this, but this is not really what I'm doing now because of X, Y, Z. You know what I'm saying? And typically, the truth of the matter is, if they're not willing to grow with you, they'll fall off on their own. You don't have to have a specific thing where you're like, I'm cutting you out, I'm cutting you off. People who don't want to grow will be repelled by your growth. I can use this example, even though this is not an example of applicable to me, but like somebody who is a drug addict or something, and then they say, I'm going clean. That example came to mind just because of my line of work. The people around them might have liked whatever drug of choice they did together. They might like that thing that they were doing with them and kind of bonded over that thing they were mutually doing together. So instead of saying, you don't do this drug anymore, so I don't do this drug anymore and you still do, so I'm cutting you off. Rather, the conversation is more like, I have decided for myself that I'm not doing this. I can't tell you what to do, but I can't be around this for the sake of such and such. I stopped for such and such reasons. And then it's going to be either that person thinks that your presence in their life is valuable enough for them to consider stopping themselves, or at least not doing that around you, or they might say, you know what, then bye then. You're not going to do this with me. This is what we do. And so you don't have to be like, oh, I'm cutting you off, I'm cutting you off. Just let them know about your growth, your reasons for your growth, and why you can't be in those old positions anymore. And things will sort themselves out that way. Fit always has us fitting. Old friends, new friends conundrum. Oh, you got a decent amount of sleep. I still don't see whatever Cam is. Oh, here we go. Here, hey Mark, hey May. Hope all is well with you. Mark killing it with the fit today. Appreciate that. Oh, you're the one who said that. I saw Colleen's comment. I didn't see Prince's comment at first. It's like me and my friends, they always had to grow clubbing. Yeah, I mean, so the funny thing is some people don't grow out of clubbing, but some people do. Like, I have so many different things that I want to do in life. That's not my scene at all. Clubbing is not my scene at all. Even when you see me go to these events that I go to, it might be like club-like settings, but I'm going to meet those people from those shows. Like, that's the part that interests me. I wouldn't just go out and do that just for a night out anyways. And I probably looked bummy for the last 2 to 3 weeks because I was not going to go to the barber with a flu bug. I realized that this is part of my self-care. I had a conversation with somebody, one of my friends, like a couple years ago, where they asked me, is going to the barbershop a part of your self-care? And I was thinking to myself, barbershop and self-care. For whatever reason, I didn't connect those two things. But if you knew me, anyone who knew me in 2013, which is probably nobody from this page, but anybody who knew me in real life from like 2011 to 2013, when my anxiety and depression symptoms and agoraphobia and panic disorder were at their worst, I did not go to the barber. I did not go to the barber for, I want to say it was close to 2 years that I did not go to the barber. And my facial hair was growing crazy. I had this huge beard. I had my hair back when it was growing regular, before it started thinning. The hair was growing crazy, and anytime when I left my house, which was not much, I would get the comments like, are you on drugs? Are you Osama bin Laden's descendant? People would say it's New York is a nasty place, and people said nasty things to me. And then I remember after I was hospitalized and I got out, I ended up having a friend of mine that I had met connect me with this barber who shaved my beard and like cut my hair, and the top of my hair they did it in twists. And it was the first time I had done any kind of hair maintenance in almost 2 years, and it felt like I was shedding the old self. It felt like very therapeutic for me, actually, more than before. Like, it always feels nice to get a nice haircut, but it was just like it was different. It was different to just have a fresh start after 2 years of not cutting it at all. So don't let me lose my train of thought here. Um, yeah, so after that, I got to a point of basically going to the barber once every maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks at the most. 2 to 3 weeks at the most. And if I ever have to go longer than that, I don't feel like myself after 2 years of not going at all. When you get, oh, this jacket is nice. This guy has a Rugrats jacket. This is why when I'm doing a public speaking thing, like an actual public speaking gig, I always end up going longer than what I'm supposed to do. And then they're like, okay, Mark, I like what you're saying, but you have to stop, because I always think of different things. But when you sit and you live in a depressive state over a long period of time and you don't change anything about that, if you don't change your environment, if you don't change your attitude, if it comes to you need to see a therapist and you're not seeing the therapist, whatever it is, if you don't change something about what is going on with this depressive state that you're experiencing, that state now becomes your baseline. So you now feel normal in that state. Like, this is my regular baseline state. Whether it's not taking care of myself, whether it is speaking negatively about myself, whatever it is, that becomes your baseline. And then when you start to reintroduce things into your life, something simple as going to the barber shop or the hair salon or the nail salon, once, twice a month, or doing something like positive affirmations, or making sure that you're leaving your house, whatever that thing is for you, when you start to reintroduce that thing into your life, it feels foreign, because you've now gotten used to all of the things that have accumulated and put you in that down, depressed state that you are in currently. So if you're in that state right now, start to think about all the different things that have gotten you to that point, and start to flip those things around. It's not going to happen overnight, but flip those things around one thing at a time. And at first, when you start to do that, you're going to be like, this is odd. I'm not used to feeling this way. I'm not used to feeling good. But the more that you introduce those things and the more that you stay consistent with those things now become your new baseline. And then you're like, I should have been feeling this way this whole time. Like, if you're driving around your car on a flat tire and the car is unbalanced and it's leaning on one side, but the longer you sit in that car with the 3 good tires, you're just going to get used to the car leaning over here. Like, that's what it's supposed to do. In physical therapy, I've been in a lot of physical therapy, especially in the last 6 to 7 years. And I had this bad shoulder injury 3 years ago, and I didn't heal it properly. I didn't do all the things I was supposed to do to heal it. And my shoulder was hiked up like this. And I remember I went to a new physical therapist a couple years ago. They said, why is your shoulder like this? Put it down. I was like, my shoulder is not up. And then he told me to stand in the mirror and look at my 2 shoulders and tell him if they're even. And I looked and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that I was walking around all this time with my right shoulder hiked up. And that's because I was so used to the shoulder being hiked up. So then I intentionally had to stand in the mirror, literally stand in the mirror and practice relaxing that shoulder so that the shoulder is now even with the other one, so that I have two evened out shoulders. And I didn't even know that the shoulder was out of balance. Mark, you're not ugly. Cam, you look less ugly, you look more handsome. You know, yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't care if somebody. People have called me ugly before. I don't care. I wouldn't care. Um, I'm not saying that people can't say things to hurt my feelings. It's just that at this stage of my life, it has to be somebody who I strongly care about before it's going to have any kind of impact on me in that kind of a way. But that's neither here nor there. But anyways, I'm about 2/3 of the way to my client, and I could go on forever, but I'm about to hop off this thing. I hope everybody has an amazing Monday. Live intentionally. And now, updates. I am planning to do my traders recap finally on Tuesday with Tasha, hopefully. And I'm still not caught up on Survivor. I'm halfway through episode 2 of Survivor. What else? I still haven't watched BB Can, but I think that I might catch episode 1 during my break and see if I find it interesting enough. But for the people who tell me to watch the digital dailies, sorry, I'm not interested in digital dailies regardless. Even if I end up watching the episodes, I'm not interested in watching digital dailies because it just doesn't make sense. If it's not live, I'm a live person. I watch live sports. I watch live Big Brother feeds. I do not watch replayed Big Brother feeds. The only way you can catch me watching replayed Big Brother feeds is for like an old classic season that I never saw before, where somebody took iconic clips from that. That's the only way. So have a great day all, and we'll talk again soon.